Learning where the modes of the major scale come from and how they are constructed is a waste of time if you're not going to then learn how and when to use each one. Without learning about the harmonic context that would be appropriate for soloing with, say, the Dorian mode, you'll have no idea when to use that mode versus another minor tonality mode like Aeolian or Phrygian, for example. This lesson is sponsored by Neural DSP, and all of the tones you hear are courtesy of the Archetype Rabea plugin. Visit the links in the description box beneath the video to download a free trial of the plugin and my free preset pack. There are 7 major scale modes and various ways to interpret them, but one way I like to group them in my mind is that there are 3 minor tonality modes, 3 major tonality modes, and one that's just horrible and really only works with minor 7 flat 5 chords. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, within those 3 minor modes and 3 major tonality modes, there are unique differences in terms of scale construction. If it wasn't already apparent to you, this lesson, like most on my channel, is not for beginners. I focus on teaching intermediate and advanced players, and this type of material is definitely aimed at those who already understand fundamental music theory concepts like scale construction, intervals, and even where the modes of the major scale come from. If you are a beginner watching this, please do not try to wrap your head around the modes of the major scale right now. Learn about the basics of music theory first, like intervals, major scale harmony, and scale construction. If you do that and ignore people who tell you that you don't need theory to understand modes, just so they can sell you their shortcut method, you'll become much better equipped to understand modes when the time comes. So what are the 3 minor tonality modes of the major scale? We have Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. For the purposes of this lesson, I'm going to ignore Phrygian and just focus on comparing Dorian and Aeolian. You're going to learn how and when to use each one. Now, I want you to listen to this next clip of me improvising over 2 different but very similar chord progressions. We'll circle back to that eventually. For now, let's look at the notes and scale construction of the A Dorian mode versus that of A Aeolian. Like I said, these are both minor tonality modes because you can build minor triads and even minor 7th arpeggios from the root notes in both. The scale formula for the Dorian mode is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. And with an A root note, that gives us A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The scale formula for Aeolian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. With an A root note, that gives us A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Looking at the 2 scale formulas on screen, you'll see that the difference lies in the 6th degree of each scale. Dorian has a major 6th, which with an A root note is the note F sharp. Aeolian has a flat 6, which with an A root note is the note F. If I play both of those notes together, it's quite an ugly sound. That's not something you'd really want to hear if you were soloing with either mode for an extended period of time. Now I want you to look at the notes involved in 2 different chord progressions. They both have the same 1 chord, A minor 7, and they both move to a 4 chord with D as the root note. So progression 1 is A minor 7 to D minor 7. Progression 2 is A minor 7 to D9. The construction of a minor 7 chord is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. With an A root note for our 1 chord in both progressions, that gives us the notes A, C, E, and G. And with D as the root note for the 4 chord in that same progression, that gives us D, F, A, and C. In progression 2, we have a different chord type for the 4 chord. The D9 is a dominant chord type, which is constructed as follows. 1, 3, flat 7, 9. Now, the ninth is just an unaltered extension of a dominant 7th chord, so it doesn't really affect the harmony. I just personally like to use dominant 9th chords in place of regular dominant 7th chords sometimes. So with D as the root note of the 4 chord in progression 2, that gives us the notes D, F sharp, A, C, and E. So we've looked at the notes involved in 2 chord progressions and the notes involved in 2 modes. I'll just tell you now that A Dorian is the best fit for progression 2 and A Aeolian is the best fit for progression 1. If I left it there though, this would be a pretty useless guitar lesson. So let's really get into why Dorian works with progression 2 and not progression 1, if you haven't figured it out already based on what I've told you. So it's all to do with the 6th of Dorian. It has a major 6th, which when measured against an A root note is the note F sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the root note A, and here's the 6th, F sharp. Now, look at my hand as I go to play this D9 chord. So this D9 chord has a major 3rd, which is the note F sharp. The same note as the major 6th in A Dorian. So the next time you come across a chord progression that has a 1 chord played as a minor chord, followed by a 4 chord that's a dominant chord type, you'll know to use the Dorian mode built from the root of the 1 chord, because the 6th in the scale, or the mode, will be the same note as the 3rd in the 4 chord. I'll say that again. The 6th in the Dorian mode will be the same note as the 3rd in the 4 chord. If I tried using A Dorian over progression 1, which was A minor 7 to D minor 7, there would be a clash between the major 6th in A Dorian and the flat 3rd in the D minor 7th chord. Remember that the flat 3rd in the D minor 7th chord is the note F. And I played it earlier, but just to remind you, the clash between F sharp and F is a pretty ugly sound, which is what you would get in small doses if you played exclusively A Dorian over a chord progression that included a D minor 7th chord. Hey everyone, we're going to get back to the lesson very soon, but I just want to take a chance to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, Neural DSP. For all of the tones that you're hearing in this video, I've been using their Archetype Rabea plugin, which is of course Rabea Massad's signature plugin, and I recently filmed a full demonstration of this plugin, so you can find that elsewhere on my channel. Like all Neural DSP plugins, this one is jam-packed with features. You've got 3 amps, 2 cabs, 6 microphones per side. You can load in your own IRs. There are room microphones, 4 pre-effects pedals, including a compressor, octaver, fuzz, and overdrive. In fact, those last 3 are actually 2 pedals in 1, if you can believe it. So you get 2 octaves, 2 fuzz pedals, and 2 overdrives to play with. And unique to Rabea Massad's signature plugin, this is something that you don't get in any other Neural DSP plugins, is the mono synth. Now this gets its own page in the plugin, and it's a lot of fun to play with. And I'm saying that as someone who definitely wouldn't naturally gravitate towards an effect like a guitar synth sound, but it is generally loads of fun to play with. Post effects include incredibly versatile delay and reverb algorithms. You've got a parametric EQ, noise gate, a transpose tool so you can tune down without actually having to physically tune down your guitar. And you also get a feature called the doubler control, which when you're playing rhythm parts, dials in this really nice stereo spread. It's like you're double tracking in real time. On top of that, you get a very useful metronome to practice with and an onboard tuner as well. Today, I'm giving you my preset pack for Archetype Rabea for free. It contains all of the presets that I used in my demonstration video when the plugin was released. And it also includes the preset that I'm using for this specific video, which is called Squishy Lead. So that can all be downloaded for free along with a trial of the plugin via the links in the description box. Thank you to Neural DSP for sponsoring another video on the channel, and let's get back to the lesson. Now remember, the Aeolian mode has a flat 6, measured against an A root note that gives you the note F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So A Aeolian over that D minor 7th chord will work so much better because the flat 6 of the scale and the flat 3rd of the chord are the same note, F. So here's two separate examples of licks that you could play using each mode with its relevant chord progression. Starting with Dorian. And now Aeolian. So if you're watching this and you can hear the difference in sound that each of these modes make, but are struggling to follow the language I'm using to describe the sounds, that tells me that you have a good ear, but you lack an understanding of fundamental music theory concepts like intervals and scale construction. These are things that, when understood, remove so much of the guesswork out of the process of applying the concepts and sounds that I demonstrate in my lessons and in my courses into your playing immediately. I mean, wouldn't it feel great if you could take the information that I'm presenting in this lesson and instantly understand how it translates to the fretboard and in multiple keys? That's what studying and practicing the material in Bulletproof Guitar Player can do for you. The curriculum for my courses is a step-by-step learning path that will lead you to a point at which you will finally break out of what I call the lost intermediate plateau. This is something that most guitar players go through. It's when you realize that you haven't improved much at all for months, years, sometimes even over a decade. And this is often the result of skipping over key music theory fundamentals and fretboard visualization. Two topics that are very hard to learn on a deep level if you're learning from scattered resources online, as opposed to following a clear, structured learning path that only builds on knowledge that you've already acquired in previous lessons. If you want to know how to break out of the lost intermediate plateau, visit bulletproofguitarplayer.com, linked in the description box beneath the video. With a monthly or annual subscription plan, you'll get access to the tab files for this video, the backing track, and 6 bonus lick lessons. 3 for the Dorian mode and 3 for Aeolian. These licks will help you get familiar with the different sounds that these two minor tonality modes create. And with your subscription plan, you'll also be able to stream the full curriculum for Bulletproof Guitar Player, which tells you everything you need to know about modes, both in terms of where they come from and their application. Hope this free lesson was helpful. Please subscribe for more, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.